Attention Guilford County! Are you ready for positive change in our schools? Introducing Bill Goebel, a true champion for our students, parents, and teachers. With years of experience and unwavering dedication, Bill Goebel is the leader we need on the school board. As a current member representing District 3, Bill is already making a difference, shaping policies that benefit our community. Vote for Bill Goebel for school board, and let's build a brighter future for Guilford County together. Paid for by the committee to elect Bill Goebel for school board.
Coming up in this episode of Finding Common Ground.
Tigers and bears. Oh my.
How do you carry an AR and nobody notice it?
But a 20-year-old, when I was 20 years old, I was running behind girls. The biggest issue I had was girls. Give me the brush, sir. Give me the brush, sir. Give me the brush, sir. So all we can say is, buckle up, buttercup.
There are two sides to every coin.
How do we deal with racial issues when they affect relationships?
Finding common ground on all those issues that we come against.
There's black and there's white.
And I think as Christians, we have to learn how to get together because we're not in heaven.
I've met more interesting people just by God just bringing them in.
Republicans and Democrats.
But a lot of times, when it comes to race and it comes to culture and it comes to perception, even as Christians, we don't always understand. We look at it through our lenses.
There's Bill.
I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland called Parma.
Any black people in Parma?
There was not one.
Not one black person,
Not
Bill?
one.
Come on,
Not
Bill,
one.
you got to have one. A
Nope.
token black person? A token?
And there's Odell.
I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, public housing, single mom, divorced single mom of 4 kids, and I came up through segregation and all that kind of stuff.
If a black person drove through the town, the police would stop them and escort them out.
Bill and Odell are finding common ground.
A part of what we have to do is listen to each other, find the common ground, and question, not questioning you like you're on a witness stand, but questioning you for a better understanding. Father God, we just come to you just to say, first and foremost, God, continue to cover and bless America. God, a lot's going on in our country. We do believe that America is the greatest country in the world at this time. God, I just want to thank you for protecting the life of former President Donald J. Trump from the assassin's bullet. God, we just say that you're in control, and we just say thank you for protecting and covering him. God, America, we have our differences, but we don't solve our differences that way. God, please continue to help us as individuals, as a country, because many of us are concerned right now, concerned that we have lost our way, concerned that we are fighting amongst ourselves, concerned, God, that we're not putting you first. So we thank you and we praise you. And we ask you to continue to remind us and give us patience and understanding with one another. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Dear Heavenly Father, we just lift up our nation. We lift up all the hate and rhetoric that's going on either side of the aisle. Lord, we ask for healing. We ask for common ground. We ask for common sense. We ask for reconciliation. Violence on either side is not the way to solve the problem. We need to sit down and talk through our differences. And if we can't agree, at least walk away, understanding that we're still in the same team. We are all trying to keep the main thing the main thing. Amen.
Bill. They tell me lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. You know, I got ready to reach for my glasses and I realized that my glasses was on. So lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, elephants and donkeys fighting each other. Why? You know, it's interesting that with both gentlemen who's running for president right now, Donald Trump, I think he's 78? And I think Joe Biden is 82? Nope, Joe Biden's 81 and Donald Trump 78, that a 20-year-old.
Yeah, we found 2 people that are actually older than me.
Well, 2 people older than you, but a 20-year-old took a shot at former President Donald Trump and almost, Bill, killed him.
Yeah, came within a millimeter.
I mean, if he didn't turn his head.
Yep.
And that's the last thing I believe America needed was for former President Donald Trump to be assassinated.
Yeah, that would not be good. That would not be good.
So, Bill, what drives a 20-year-old, 20 years old?
Yeah, I don't know. They said he was bullied a lot in school, the kids that were hanging around him. And I don't know if that's the case, but I'm sure he had some adverse childhood experience. I don't mean to blame everything on that, but, think about it. A 20-year-old has to plan getting an AR, has to practice. That's a long shot. You and I know deer hunting. 141-yard or 150-yard shot is a long shot.
Yeah, especially for me, you better shoot than I am.
Yeah.
So, I've been known to miss a buck or two, Bill. I've been known to miss a buck or two. Closer than that.
That wasn't your fault. They moved.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they buck fever, yeah.
Yeah. But, you got to lay there and be still and not be nervous and be steady. And I think he had him dead in the sights until Trump moved his head. And, he had to practice those shots at long distance. I mean, they said he went to the place and visited a number of times based on his phone. They have his phone. And
I didn't know that.
Track where his phone was. Okay. And he had visited the place twice and spent a total of 75 minutes in that area. So he was scoping it out.
Wow.
I'm also surprised that how do you carry an AR and nobody notice it?
It's interesting that you would say that. We talk a lot about radicalization, that the people from Iran, someone radicalized them, if that's the right way to say it. But my understanding, this young man was 20 years old. This young man had a AR-47?
15.
AR-15, okay.
Which is like a 47.
So think about it.
It's an assault rifle.
So we fight to make assault rifles legal, right? Mm-hmm. So this young man had a legal rifle. I think he was a Republican, right?
Correct.
So a young Republican, 20 years old, repping what Republicans and some Democrats, me included, believe in the Second Amendment. But Bill, don't understand, if he got bullied, why go after former President Donald Trump? And by the way, why don't Republicans, and I know you're not all Republicans, but why do Republicans say President Trump and not former President Trump?
I don't know. I heard it both ways. I've heard former President Trump, Donald Trump. I mean, I don't think there's any consistent way. Some people refer to him a consistent way, but there's no consistent way. A bunch of people are doing it. As you were talking, I was thinking, if he was casing that place, I'm wondering if he took the AR and put it on the roof ahead of time so that he wouldn't have to carry it and not be noticed. And if no one checked those buildings' roofs, which they didn't, they wouldn't have found it.
Well, it looked like there's a lot of finger pointing between some of the law enforcement authorities. You were supposed to check it. No, you were supposed to check it. No, I was supposed to check it, and all that kind of stuff. And when you start talking about the FBI or the CIA or the Secret Service, I think that we have the best system in the world. So obviously our system, even though it's the best in the world, could be tweaked. Our system can be re-examined, and someone's going to ask the question, what happened? Where were the mistakes made? And I just think we have to own up to the mistakes, because if we don't own up to the mistakes, then the next time we may not be as fortunate that the gentleman missed and former President Donald Trump or anyone, any kind of individual, didn't just turn their head. Because sitting there watching it, I'm like, wait a minute, is this something I think I just saw? Because, I've been around a while, 64 years, and the assassinations and all this kind of stuff, I thought we somewhat was beyond that, Bill. That's not what we do when we, have our challenges and we don't like each other. We don't go and try to kill individuals, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It was interesting. I was watching the TV when it happened.
Watching it live?
Yeah. Yeah, they had broken into CNN, broken into the news. Said, "Oh, Donald Trump."
You look at CNN?
And Fox News and all of them. I look at all of them. I give them all a chance. But so I'm watching it, and I saw what happened, and I'm thinking, did a bee or something come by his ear? Because he kind of flinched like it was an ear. And then when I saw him go down, I said, was he hit? Was he hit? I didn't see any blood or anything. And then when the Secret Service came out, I realized that there was something going on. I still didn't know if he was hit until he got up. And when he first got up, you couldn't see if there was any blood. And then you saw the blood and you said, oh my gosh, he's bleeding. Now at that point, called Dorian, and we thought he hurt his ear when he went to the ground or Secret Service. Right. I didn't realize he was shot. So it got my attention, and we kept watching it and couldn't believe it. It brought back memories. And it just so happened I was up in our attic, and I was up there doing something, and we have some books up there that we have sitting. And I came across a book that said 4 days, the historical record of the death of President Kennedy.
Wow.
And I opened up the inside of the book, and it says, in my mom's handwriting, this book belongs to the William Goebel family and received in October, right after his assassination.
Wow.
In January, right after his assassination, we ordered it. And in it, it has all the things that occurred. Now, at that time, news coverage, we had 3 channels, CBS, NBC, and ABC.
Right. I remember that. And it went off at 12 at night.
Yeah, Walter Cronkite, and that was it. Well, those 4 days, the news was on all the time. They were talking about different things. And it talked about John F. Kennedy getting shot. And that Sunday, we were watching the news, and I saw Oswald get shot, which I couldn't believe, And back then, they didn't have tape replays like we do today.
Right.
Because it was live. So I called my mom in, and I said, Oswald was shot. Well, obviously, he was laying down. There were all the scuffling, and then you saw him taken away, and people reporting. But the introduction to this book, the 4 days, and that's basically 4 days that the country shut down.
Wow.
My dad wanted to take us to D.C. to be, see all the activity, but we couldn't work it out with 8 kids, and my dad is a fireman. But this book came, and I was reading it, and I just want to read maybe the first paragraph.
Please.
What John F. Kennedy left us, most of all, was an attitude. To put it in simple terms, he looked forward, ahead. He gave us a future. He knew no more than anyone else what the future was going to be like, but he did know that was where we ought to be looking. We needed to look forward as a nation. Too long we've been looking in the past or in the present. We now needed to have hope and look into the future. Only to a limited extent are we prisoners of the past. The future sets us free. It is our escape hatch. We can shape it in our liking, and we had better start thinking about it now, how we would like to see our future. Those words today absolutely are the way we need to look at this country. Where's our future? Where are we going? What do we want to be? Who do we want to help? How do we want to educate our kids? We have so many problems in this country, and every generation's had problems. From the start of the Revolutionary War, only a third of the people thought we should leave the king.
Right.
A third sat out, deciding who's ever going to win. We're going to go with them. And a third were hardcore. And
on both sides.
On both sides.
Yeah.
And they fought. They killed each other. They shot at each other.
How about the people, Bill, who always straddle the fence?
I like those people.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. During the Revolutionary War, would you be one of those guys that lined up 50 yards apart and shot at each other? Or would you rather be the guys in the woods, walking in the woods and doing ambushing?
I'd be in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Those are people that don't want to be put in a line and shot at. And the same thing with people that straddle a fence. They don't want to be shot at yet. So they're hiding in the woods, waiting for the right time to come out. And that's how I see people that straddle. They're just waiting because they may be in favor of the English, the king, or in the colony, but they don't want to be on the line getting shot at. They want to be in the woods shooting the enemy, who they think.
But they're still in the war, though.
And they're in the war, but they're not telling you. They're saying, I'm straddling the fence. I don't know what to do. But they're hiding in the woods, and nobody knows they're taking those shots at those guys. They take a couple shots, and then they run and hide.
Is that the same thing as one unaffiliated voter today or independent voter?
Yeah, it might be. It might be. You know, the unaffiliated's the biggest number in the state, and it's growing. And I think that the extremes on the party, more so now with the Republicans, I think the Democrats realize that you can't have those extreme elements running the party. Republicans, they're all worried about Trump. I mean, look at the guy who made vice president, and they have him talking about how negative, he talks so negative about Trump.
You mean J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, if I'm not mistaken, and they said once called Donald Trump American Hitler, likened him to a cultural heroine?
Yeah.
That gentleman?
Yeah, and you know how J.D. Vance made his money?
No. How?
Investment banking. And guess what he does? He now says they're evil. They're no good. Well, he might be right because he was part of it.
Well,
but that's how he made his wealth.
Well, but again, you're dealing with former President Trump, and Trump is trying to win. So who do you replace Mike Pence with? It said it's a shrewd and calculated pick, a nod to Trump's base. More than any of the other contenders, Vance's selection shows that Trump wants to lock down the MAGA faithful and ensure they turn out and vote, even if that means losing more moderate and independent voters, i.e., those who straddle the fence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But they don't care about the moderate. They don't care about that at all. They want a strong base that will follow them and do whatever they want and support them. And I might add, that base will bully the moderates.
Is that base the one that's lined up in the middle of the field, standing shoulder to shoulder?
Taking a bullet.
You
got it. That's them.
So let me ask a question. On your John F. Kennedy example, Kennedy is like Camelot.
Yeah.
Was it better, Bill, or worse when we didn't know as much about our candidates as we do now? Let me explain. I'm not for Trump. Let me say that again. I'm not for Trump. And if I had my rathers, I would say, which I've been saying for 2 years now, no Biden, no Trump for 2024. Obviously, that doesn't work because we have a Biden and we have a Trump and it's 2024. However, if John F. Kennedy was running today with all the social medias and all the cameras and all the background checks, maybe, just maybe, his romances, don't want to be sued, would have been public. And because of that, we may have seen him in a different light. What do you think?
Well, didn't hurt Trump.
You know, that's a quick, short answer. But let me tell you what didn't hurt Trump. And I don't want to be insensitive. The pictures after he got up off of the platform and raised his hand in the air. And I told Congressman Mark Walker years ago to tell President Trump that that's really the Black Power sign, his fist in air. Mm-hmm. So once we tell him it's the Black Power sign, I don't know if he's going to keep doing it. But that one and the fight. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not for Trump, but that's impressive, Bill.
Yeah, to think that way after getting shot. Not too many people would have been able to do that.
But the point is that a good thing or a not so good thing?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because you stated that...
If you're a magnet, that's a wonderful...
Well, that's what I'm saying. You stated that people will bully you from that perspective. So if I'm looking for someone bullying, if we use that term, then I want somebody who will fight for me, i.e., give me Goliath, and let's stand behind Goliath because he's strong. Our leader's strong, and all we have to do is get behind him because he's leading us. And man, even a bullet can't take him down, and he's not afraid of anything. But the key is what's inside of him or her.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what's inside of him. It's going to be an interesting race. I've seen the polls, and it's still neck and neck.
And it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't be. But think about it from both ways. It shouldn't be with former President Trump's indictments and everything else. But by the way, though, I've seen what I predicted how the courts are just kind of clearing the way for him or delaying the situation, throwing things out. And it's like, okay, where's the justice system? But it's back to what we talked about in many podcasts ago, the two-tier justice system that America have, but we're not going to get into that right now. However, when you sit there and you think about everything that you see and you're like, okay, this guy is winning, but he's not winning by that much. This guy came up off the mat and had an iconic picture. I mean, blood on the face, fist raised, the American flag flying upside down, I may ask.
Oh, was it?
May say, from what I saw.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Up there. And it's like, yeah. And the iconic picture. And it's like, man, is this guy Hercules, you know? Yeah. But at the end of the day, what's inside of this guy? And I think that's important, because what they said about J.D. Vance once called Donald Trump's America's Hitler. I'm not likening Trump to Hitler, but Hitler by himself was courageous. Hitler by himself seemed like he was this most powerful fighter, but what was inside of him, Bill? And I think that's something we need to think about as we go forth. But, you know, it's another thing that's coming out now, too. And it's like, it says Gavin Newsom, who, you know, the governor, slams Elon Musk for endorsing Donald Trump, saying he bent the knee. And I started saying, wait a minute, what does bent the knee mean? So, you know, of course, my good friend Google said bend the knee has been used for centuries and is often associated with submission, surrender, or showing respect to someone in authority. Trace back to the medieval times when knights would kneel before their lord as a sign of loyalty and obedience. When someone bends the knee, they may be admitting defeat or demonstrating reverence toward another person of power. So we used to say down the dirt roads of South Carolina, people were a butt kisser. Now they're saying they're bending their knees to former President Trump. What's your thought on that?
Well, what made me think about bending the knee in that description, read that again.
Be glad to. It says bend the knee has been used for centuries and is often associated with submission, surrender, or showing respect to someone in authority. Trace back to medieval times when knights would kneel before their lords as a sign of loyalty and obedience. When someone bends the knee, they may be admitting defeat or demonstrating reverence toward another person of power, almost like saying your prayers.
Yeah. When you proposed, did you bend your knee?
I bent my knee when I got down on one knee.
So did I. But I didn't think of that definition.
Well, when I was taught as a child to say my prayers at night, I went to both knees. Now you lay me down to sleep. Pray, Lord, my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, pray, Lord, my soul to take. Bless mom and daddy, sister, about all that kind of good stuff. Did your
mom have nightly prayers with you?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And we taught our kids to, you know, get on both knees and pray.
Oh, that's cool.
And all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I don't think these individuals, when you talk about bending knees, are praying to former President Donald Trump. I think the whole thing when you have the J.D. Vance of the world, who's 39 years old, and people said he is a young fire breather and all this kind of good stuff. And his pick was really for the MAGA faithful, letting them know that, hey, I need you all. I got you all. I believe in you. And it's just like red meat. And that's interesting because he has the right to pick whoever he wants to pick. But when you look at J.D. Vance in comparison to Mike Pence, if Vance was in there that day, he may have obstructed the peaceful transfer of the power. What do you think?
No, it might have. It might have. You know, it's interesting. J.D. Vance is a first-term senator. He hasn't been there that long.
39 years old, and he's vice president?
Yeah, exactly. The only other guy that I know that did something like that was Obama, and he ended up becoming president. Vance is speaking, and I've never heard him speak. I've seen clips that, depending on what news station you listen to, they put a good one or a bad one and make a bad light of it. Yeah, I don't know. We got to got to pull back. He wrote a book about growing up poor and making it and doing all that. And there was a movie made, and it was nominated for some Academy Awards. I don't think it won, but at least it was nominated. So he has kind of an interesting history. The other thing is, from a tactical standpoint or strategic standpoint, picking someone from Ohio, which has a tremendous amount of delegates, is a smart thing.
Trump is not stupid.
Yeah.
President Trump is very intelligent, and his people around him are very intelligent. That was never the issue. The issue was always a moral, ethical issue on what's inside of the individual.
Yeah. And the other thing I'm worried about is both those folks want to stop aid to Ukraine, which would be the end of Ukraine. And now that sets up for Putin to take other countries that aren't NATO. There's a couple small ones. But then what happens if he attacks Poland? Do we honor our NATO? Because, Trump basically doesn't like NATO, wants us out of it. So that to me presents a huge problem from the standpoint of, one of the things that happened with Hitler, those wars were fought in Europe. They never came across the Atlantic, even though the submarines were blowing up ships off of Miami and North Carolina coast. It never really came with soldiers here or anything. So it's we've been sheltered because we have these two oceans that keep us. But nowadays, that's not a huge deterrent.
Well, and I agree. And we're not saying that Trump is Hitler. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the possibility of effects when they start looking at NATO and those things make a big deal, because foreign policy is a big deal. That used to be one of the main things. Now let's talk about President Joe Biden. The last show I talked about, Biden got beat like he stole something. Trump mopped the floor up with him, and I still stand by that. I know some people got very upset with me as a Democrat, saying that President Joe Biden didn't do a good job in the debate. Well, no, that was just show before last. The last show was with the young lady, so I'm stand to be corrected. But I still stand by the fact that President Joe Biden didn't do himself any favors in the debate, the one-on-one debate with former President Donald Trump. But they said currently now, because people were calling for President Biden to step down, and President Biden said, no. But now he's saying that, you know what, if there had been some medical condition that emerged and his doctors came to him and said, you got this problem, then he may step down. When I read that, Bill, I'm like, that's it. So President Biden is like, I'm looking for an off-ramp. What do you think?
I don't know. Power is a strong thing. Joe Biden, I thought he's done a very good job for 4 years. I mean, people can argue that it's caused inflation. I think COVID caused inflation with the supply chain. And I think we'll look back decades from now and find out what really caused the inflation. But it's easy to blame someone for it. And I've lived through inflation that was, significantly more than this, 17, 18%.
Right.
Inflation can't be caused by one person. It's a combination of things that happen. So I think if he looks at his accomplishments, he can say, I did a heck of a lot in 4 years, and I'm getting up there, and I think he's got some form of, I don't know if it's dementia, I'm not a doctor, but he's got some form of where he loses track of what he's doing. And, I have a memory issue. It's all people do. The performance at that debate clearly showed there was some kind of medical issue. So it would be nice if he would say, hey, I'm going out on a high note. Let's let somebody else take over the reins, and I'll support him.
Well, think about this. This is what he did say. Said current U.S. President Joe Biden, in an interview with CBS News, has stated that he might withdraw from this year's presidential election due to health issues. The American leader noted that he is ready to withdraw from the presidential race if doctors indicate health problems. If, Biden said, if there had some medical condition that emerged, if the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem, he said. So even in his sentence, he's repeating words. It is worth noting that there are ongoing debates between 81-year-old Democrat Joe Biden and 78-year-old Republican Donald Trump regarding their opponents' ages and how they affect their ability to lead the country. So, Bill, in South Carolina in the 60s, they didn't teach me so much, but if I had to add 81 plus 78, I think I have what? 159?
Yeah.
Just do it in my head.
Yeah.
159 years between the two individuals. So, an 81-year-old, nothing against age, and a 78-year-old. Now, if they were in a WWW wrestling match, I would think that Trump would body slam Biden, and Biden probably couldn't get up.
Well,
right?
I don't know if Trump could get up either. They both might lay there like turtles.
But the thing about it is, Bill, is that it's not a wrestling match, though.
No, it's not a physical match. You know, and Biden walks like an old man, and I finally found out why. Besides him being old, he had an ankle injury.
Oh.
That causes his ankle not to be as flexible. So he's got to walk that way because of his ankle. But it looks like he's the old man shuffle. And you would think that they would put that out, that, you know, but they're so afraid of putting out anything negative on his health that, you know, that would explain his old man walk.
Speaking of putting things out, have you taken a look at how large that white bandage is on President Trump's ear?
Yeah.
Instead of, if the Trump got it, now listen, if the ear got nicked, but it's like, I'm going to make sure it's large enough that you all see this is on the ear. But I think, wasn't it something about the Bible and the ear and all this kind of good stuff?
Leviticus.
Leviticus?
Yeah, it's Leviticus, which I don't put, you know, Leviticus was changed when Jesus came back. But Leviticus 8:23 and 24. Moses slaughtered a ram and applied its blood to Aaron and his sons. He put blood on the lobe of Aaron's right ear. Huh, interesting. The thumb of his right hand and the big toe of his right foot. So people are quoting on Facebook and social media, oh, this means he's consecrated by Moses.
But the former President Donald Trump is consecrated by Moses?
Yeah, but because his lobe had blood on it. Well, if you really follow this, he's got to be shot.
Goble. I think that one thing we do as human beings, because we're only human, we try in every way, shape, and form, some of us, not all, to write our own narrative or justify our own narrative. So when you read Leviticus, you're a Christian, what do you think about that?
Well, there's a lot of things in Leviticus that don't apply today, and there's hundreds and hundreds of regulations, including what I just read. So I don't put much credence in it at all. So, you know, I read it because it was in the Bible, but there are people that live by it.
Help me with this one. I just couldn't figure this one out. I thought I did. I should have, but again, I didn't. Make America Great Again, MAGA, is an American political slogan and movement popularized by Donald Trump during his successful 2016 presidential campaign. The MAGA movement was founded on the belief that the United States was once a great country, but has lost this status owing to foreign influence, both within its borders via immigration and multiculturalism, and without via globalization or the increase of integration of multiple national economics. Bill, make America great again. What does that really mean? Is that dog whistle? Is that code? What does that really mean? Because it's talked earlier about former President Donald Trump picking J.D. Vance to appease the MAGA faithful. And what is the MAGA faithful? What do they believe? Because MAGA faithful almost sounds like not a cult, but just like a hardcore group who Trump had to give them something, because I think that abortion is going to be the deciding factor in this race, just like it was in 2022, because I think a lot of white suburban educated females will go in the polling booth and vote what's good for them versus just voting. I believe black females will overwhelmingly vote for President Biden. I believe black men will overwhelmingly vote for President Biden. the black church is starting to really pay attention and get involved in politics. And I'm not going to say it's at the same level we were when President Obama was running, because we got everybody who was eligible and dragged them, pushed them, forced them to the polls, like our sons and our everybody. Did you vote? Did you vote? Are you registered? All that. I don't see that same heightened activity, but you're starting to see a lot of activity around the black community on getting the vote out and voting for Biden and everything else. So when I hear, as a black American, or I think they call me African American, never been African in my life, but that's what that's about. Make America Great Again, MAGA. Is that for me as a black American, or is not about one's race or anything else? It's about, do you believe, do you bend the knee to the MAGA movement?
Well, I think Make America Great Again, when Trump started using that, I remember when he used it, my interpretation of it, I'm going to tell you in a minute, but it seems like it's been hijacked now, kind of like woke. The word woke has been hijacked. So I think it's been hijacked by this conservative wing of the Republican Party. But when I heard it, it resonated with myself and other moderate Republicans, because we felt we were being taken advantage of by Iran, NATO, China, Saudi Arabia, and the oil people, that they were just pushing us around, and we were letting them do it. And they blamed Obama for being weak on all that stuff. And so that's when Rush Limbaugh was going crazy and talking about, Obama's giving away the house, and we have this and we have that and we have this and that. And then Trump comes along and says, we got to make America great again. We got to stop all this stuff. And there was a core of people that said, he's right. We got to stop this. We got to stop letting Iran push us around. And we got to stop letting these other countries push us around. We're providing them tremendous amount of resources, money and manpower. We need to stop being the doormat of the world. And that's how people viewed it. And that's why it struck a chord. So Make America Great. I mean, any president could say that.
Right.
And going back to George Washington. But it's been hijacked now. I think it means other things, like what we saw on January 6th and things like that. Then I do think it means what I originally thought it was.
Well, we saw a couple black people January 6th, and Rush Limbaugh, when he was talking about all the bad things happening, you think that's the time he was getting high and strung out?
Well, he was sick. There's no doubt he had cancer. I don't know if he was on medication or not for it, but Rush at one point had a tremendous audience following.
Yes, definitely.
Tremendous.
Yes.
And I listened to him a lot. Sometimes I agreed with him, sometimes I didn't. But he always had a viewpoint, that's for sure. And then on Fridays, he would take call-ins. People would call and ask him a question. So the guy was well-read on history and current events, but he's gone now. There's nobody that's following. A couple people have tried, but nobody's done it like Rush. Make America Great. It's become the slogan. People have picked it up. I've got friends that live in little towns in North Carolina, like Denton or Julian or those Climax, and they go, hats that say, make Julian great again.
Well, one of the things that
make Parma great.
Hey, make Parma great, baby.
Yeah,
make Parma great. One of the things that I've noticed, and I've been doing this for years, riding back and forth to South Carolina to see my mom and my family. And when the MAGA movement was very high, I remember going down the roads and you would see Trump signs and Trump yard signs, just Trump flags, Trump everywhere. The guys, South Carolina, the pickup truck, the big old Trump flag, the Brandon, something about Brandon with Biden, and we all know what that means. It was just crazy. I don't see it as much, and I'm going back to your example about those in the woods, straddling the fence. I don't see all the signs as much as we did before, but it's still people in the woods who's a part of this fight. And and the reason I say fight is what former President Donald Trump's like, fight, getting up off the mat, which is very impressive. But who was he insinuating to fight with, Bill?
I have no idea, but it's interesting when the report that CNN had a camera on him, getting him down the steps, surrounded by the CIA or Secret Service to cover his body. And as he was getting into the bulletproof car, he stood up and did it again.
Black Power sign. He did it just in there. Yeah.
But there was a guy and a couple people that were in the camera range, turning around, flipping the bird, and using the F-bomb.
Yeah, I saw that.
And, just constantly toward the press. And see, that's the hate. That's the ugliness that comes out in his rallies.
Why do they hate the press? Who told them to hate the press?
I don't know. What did they think the press did? They didn't pull the trigger.
I think that he told them to hate the press back during the last campaign.
Well, fake news, I get. He told them fake news, but I don't, if they've interpreted that as the right thing to do, just like they did storming January 6th or going to Charlottesville to stop that. Those are the elements. And it's interesting. You don't see the Confederate flag at events except at Trump's events.
What do you think the Confederate flag represents there? Because there's a couple flags always used. You got the Gadsden flag. That's the yellow flag. Don't tread on me with the rattlesnake.
Yep.
We know about where that came from. That came right out of Revolutionary War, Charleston, South Carolina. Then it was kind of laid to rest for a while. Then it came back, and we understand what call it the rebel flag, call it the battle flag, call it all these different flags. But why does that flag continue to fly, Bill?
I don't have any idea. I know people think that the War of the Northern Aggression is how some people have described it to me. The Civil War was over 100 years ago. We need to get over this thing and move on. But some people still feel that diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's getting attacked like crazy. And if you step in that space that you think there should be diversity, equity, inclusion, you're liable to be bullied by the Republicans, the MAGA group.
You've used that term bullied twice during this episode, and both times you attached it, or I think you associated it with the MAGA group. Can I pause for a minute and ask you to share why this comment and this attachment has surfaced for you?
Yeah. When I was on the school board, I was there to serve, and I was there to work for the kids and the parents. So I felt that people that were going to be on social media after I got on were in that same vein.
Correct.
And I thought, I understand people weren't happy because it didn't happen the way they were, but the amount of, and I didn't realize it. They were all these negative comments, all this bad stuff that was coming out. I didn't think about it until I started studying the Boy Scouts Youth Protection Program, because you've got to take it online. And they talk about different types of bullying. There's physical bullying. There's mental bullying. There's social bullying.
Wow.
And I realized it. I said, holy cow. And when they described it, I said, holy cow, that's what they've been doing to me on social media. They've been socially bullying me. So I called them out when they started doing it. I said, you got to stop bullying. You got to stop bullying. And it made some people pause.
Wow.
And because they are bullies. That's what they are. Because they go after it's one thing to say, hey, I disagree with you. Let's sit down, have a cup of coffee and talk about it and see if we can iron out our differences, or me to understand your side and vice versa, which I offered everybody. And these people preferred to keep coming at me as a bully. And I finally called them out on it, including the head of the GOP in Guilford County. I called him out a number of times on it, and he stopped. I'm sure he's going to do it again.
Are you talking about my good buddy? Are you talking about my good buddy, Chris Meadows?
Yeah, your coffee buddy.
Let me tell you about my buddy. I thought I saw a post on Facebook with him at the National Convention, of course, with Terry Lake. I think I saw that. I saw that. Chris is rolling. My buddy is out there with the big dogs rolling.
Oh, listen. I can show you a picture of Jerry Ford with me, with Teddy Kennedy with me. You can get pictures with people. So that doesn't mean they're your best friend, That means they were walking by and you said, could I have a picture?
Wow. So it says, met Carrie Lake today.
Yeah.
And Chris got a big old smile on his face. And I don't know who the guy is in the background. Don't know, but hey.
He's happy too.
All right. Well, hey, Chris is out there. Then it's this other one, Guilford County Republican Party.
That's good.
Our amazing delegation at the RNC. Congratulations to all the delegates, alternates, and guests on what's sure to be once in a lifetime experience. Americans' wealth. So, hey, Chris is out there rolling. Everybody's dressed alike. And this is the photo I'm talking about.
Yeah, I see that.
In there, and the flag, is the flag upside down? Or maybe I'm just looking at it the wrong way?
It's just sideways. I don't know. It's not upside down. But it could go the other way, but I don't know if it was done on purpose.
Well, but one thing about it.
In some of the stuff I've been reading, nobody pointed that out, so it must be okay.
All right, but think about it. I see the Black Power sign.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
It's almost like the sign that President Trump is putting up the Black Power sign like the guys did at the Olympics when they had on the black gloves and everything else. So someone needs to tell him that, hey, man, Odell said you're putting up the Black Power sign. You know that, right?
You think this shooting will temper Trump?
I think this shooting will temper everyone, because one of the things about it, death is final on this side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I still say lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, elephants and donkeys fighting, why? A 20-year-old shooter from 141 yards with almost stole the show, Bill.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, 81-year-old, 78-year-old, a 21-year-old. In spite of everything, almost stole the show. And we say, who radicalized him? He's a Republican. He had AR rifle, which I'm not going to say Republicans only believe in AR rifles, but a lot of what we've created is coming home to roost in a way.
Yeah. You wonder how a 20-year-old can say, this is a good thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah. When I was 20 years old, I was running behind girls. The biggest issue I had was girls.
I was still in college, I think. I didn't graduate. I was still in college. I was working 3 jobs because I had to pay the bills.
Girls.
I couldn't afford girls, man. They were, no, I couldn't afford girls. They were too expensive. They ate and drank, and I couldn't afford that. I could barely afford myself. And, I used to run cross country and track in college. You knew that.
Right.
Well, you know why I did that?
Why?
Because I got free books.
Oh, man.
If I didn't get free books, I wouldn't have done it.
Like for the track team.
And remember how much books cost in college?
Oh, man, books was a ripoff. I mean, a big-time ripoff.
Yeah, used books were going for $150 back then. And you're like, holy cow.
It's interesting. Bill, do you believe that this newfound quietness, this newfound peace, this newfound common ground, this newfound understanding, this newfound we're going to be more civil with each other, it sounds like finding common ground?
Yeah, it'd be nice. I heard Mark Robinson's speech yesterday.
Okay.
Have you heard it?
I haven't. I like Mark Robinson from the fact that he's losing weight, getting healthy, but that's kind of as far as it go. But I always try to refrain from talking about any black man except for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, because I think Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is a mess.
Yeah, I think the Supreme Court's got problems right now. In fact, they say Biden is trying to get the legislature to put term limits on him and accountability. For travel.
Exactly. I mean, come on. Those guys run amok. They're running amok. Now, we're going to get back to Lieutenant Governor Robinson's speech you were saying, but the Supreme Court is running amok.
Yeah.
I mean, a mockery. Think about it. Come on now. At one time, the Supreme Court was like the highest court in the land. If the Supreme Court said it, then that's it. That's God himself speaking through the Supreme Court. Man, them guys flying around on trips and doing whatever they want to do and acting like they above reproach. I mean, come on, guys. Come on, Supreme Court. Come on, man.
Yeah, well, term limits don't work for anybody. And if it was such a good idea, business would be doing it a long time ago. So I kind of agree with Biden on that, putting term limits on the Supreme Court. Because there's plenty of legal minds out there.
How about making them run for office?
No, I don't want to do that.
You don't want the Supreme Court run for office?
No,
Why not?
because then politics comes in.
All politics are there now.
Well, it is, but term limits will allow that to change over time. Because if they know they're done, I guess if you talk to Chief Justice Paul Newby, having him run as a Democrat or Republican is horrible.
Well, Chief Justice Paul Newby is an honorable man.
Yes, he is.
Now I can say that. He's an honorable man.
Yes, he is.
But go back to term limits of Supreme Court. So that means they would just fill their pockets faster.
Well, they might, but how, would it be 8 years like the president?
I wish it would be.
Yeah, it should be.
Because they're not doing what they're supposed to do, in my opinion. Yeah. They're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, it always takes a couple of years to learn the system and understand it.
Uh-huh.
So let's give them 2 years of learning.
Okay.
Then they could have 6 years of being productive.
Who's been in the Supreme Court the longest? Talk about learning and understanding and knowing how things work. Who's been the longest?
I don't know.
Supreme Court justice
I don't know.
Currently?
I don't know.
Take a wild guess.
Clarence Thomas?
Clarence Thomas.
Has he?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson's speech. He was there. He's on the national stage. Everyone's saying, kumbaya, can we all get along? And Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson says what, sir?
He was very non-confrontational. And he talked about how he grew up poor with a dad that was abusive and alcoholic, and that he raised himself up, and that he had to file for bankruptcy and other financial issues that he had because of NAFTA. He lost his job.
Blamed it all on NAFTA?
Yeah, he lost 2 jobs because of NAFTA.
Yeah, it's always someone to point a finger to.
So he was blaming NAFTA and the government that supported NAFTA.
Wow.
And took jobs away from working Americans and put them out like himself, and it forced him into bankruptcy.
Okay.
So you can twist things.
Listen, back to what I talked about in narrative. We like formulating our own narrative or twisting the narrative. So did he say he's a victim?
Yeah, that's pretty much what he was saying. And I wonder if J.D. Vance is going to talk about the same thing, that he was, a victim of this being poor.
And so NAFTA, we blame NAFTA, and NAFTA, we know what it is, a trade agreement, of course, but the people in Mexico or the people in Canada put us out of job.
That's what he's saying. So that explains why he's had all his problems.
Because of someone in Mexico.
Yeah.
Or someone in Canada.
Some executive made a decision to move things out. I was with the guys, a couple of the executives with Burlington Industries, and they moved their plants down to Mexico.
Uh-huh.
Took the equipment out of plants here and shipped it to Mexico. Put them in new plants with lower cost labor. And this guy was in the financial department, and he told the CEO, he says, this is a short-term gain. This isn't a long-term fix, because prices are going to go up. Transportation is going to cost more, and eventually it will get back to the same level that we have here, but we'll have less control because we're in a foreign country.
Well, just remember, sometimes short-term gains, which I don't agree with, but if we're going to talk about a free and open capitalist society and people decide to move their money or park their money in Cayman Islands, where we'll shout out to the Cayman Islands and our fishing captain and all this kind of stuff, and the coconut trees and everything else.
Don't forget mangoes.
Yeah, it was mango season in the islands. Don't you think they have a right to do that?
Sure they do. But I think I was with a company today, one of the companies I work with, and, they're struggling. And we were talking about, understanding how they got there and what were the causes. And one of the things the owners said was, we have 100 employees. They're family. We wouldn't think of doing something that's going to hurt family. So we have to figure another way out of this.
Well, I was meeting with one of my attorneys, an M&A guy, merger and acquisition guy, and this guy is a shark. So
you go right for the juggler, huh?
Oh, he's getting a little softer, but don't show your belly.
Yeah,
don't show the underside. And just talking to my, I know a lot of people. Someone said to me the
other day. Does he feel good about that?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's business. It's not people. And it's almost like I was talking to him and I said, hey, Joe Blow, you remind me, and we're good friends, knowing each other for 20 some odd years, very wealthy guy. He does well what he does. And he was talking about a lot of his clients, he deals with equity instead of payment. Equity in the company, turn the company around and go from there. Right. And it reminded me of Pretty Woman. The guys on Pretty Woman, I forgot the guy's name, the guy who fell in love with a prostitute. Yeah. He and his buddy Cadanza or something like that.
Well, that's the guy. He's on Seinfeld. He played Costanza on Seinfeld.
Right.
But he's playing somebody else. Yeah. He's playing his partner that's a shark.
Right. And it's how these guys do business. Mm-hmm. But just imagine, Bill, merger acquisition business at one time in this country, my ancestors were traded like stocks and bonds, or the business was called a plantation, and people invested money into plantations. And some plantations we think of going with the wind, with cotton and all those kind of stuff. But other plantations were breeding plantations, especially up in Virginia, where the whole purpose was to breed more domestic slaves. So people can make anything a commodity, even another person.
Remember when in England, they were talking about sugar?
Yeah.
And people buying into part of the boat?
Right.
How profitable the boat was.
Exactly.
And sometimes it carried sugar, sometimes it carried tea, sometimes it carried slaves.
Right. So capitalism and what these countries were built on, and acquisition and mergers and big money, and why the rich continue to be rich and all that good stuff, that's part of American history. That's woven in our society. So for someone to say, I blame NAFTA because of something happened in Canada or Mexico, and it's because of that, this government is horrible because of that, that caused me some pause. Speaking of that, you went to a training the other day. How did that go?
I'm still in training. I got 40 hours of training. Then after I do that, I've got a test each day, and then I have homework.
What are you training for?
And then certified exit planning strategist.
What is a certified exit planning strategist? It sounds like someone who goes in and talks to companies, individuals who started a company and says, okay, I'm getting older, or I don't want to do this anymore. What's my exit strategy to take care of myself, my family, legacy, and in some cases, all the people who work with the individuals for years to help make their company, business, enterprise successful. That's what it sounds like, but I'm sure I may have gotten some of it right and some of it wrong, because that's the story of my life, my friend. So what is that, Bill?
Well, it's called a SEPA, and you can look it up, but it's a whole concept that, made me think, because I own businesses, and it talks about you can add bottom line income to the company, but it may not have any value for sale.
What are you talking about, Willis? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Okay. When somebody's buying your company,
right,
they're buying the value of your company. And let me explain. If you have one customer,
right,
you're less valuable than if you have 120. Because if that one customer calls you up and says, I'm done, you have no business.
Got it. I understand.
Okay. That. So first thing you look at is how is your income set up? Is it coming in multiples, or is it one customer? Second thing is your human people. How transferable is their knowledge? Can they, if they go to work for another person, will they stay? Will they work? Will they quit and take that knowledge with them?
Institutional knowledge. Yeah. That's what I call it. Those have been around the institution for a long time.
And then the other thing is the owner. If the owner is intrinsic to keeping the business going and you take him out, who's going to run the business? He has all the connections. He's the one that's making everything happen. You got to set up a system that the company runs by itself.
So he's the rainmaker.
He's sitting in the back room, just letting everybody do their job. He doesn't even call anybody. That's when you got a valuable business, because you can call up and you say, here's everything. I got the people. I got the process. I got the systems in place. I got the IT in place. I've got diversified a company. My manufacturing is running great. My warehousing is running great. I don't have any liabilities with taxes or lawsuits. That's adding value to a company.
But you said the first one, would you say the first example, you said you could add certain things to the company and there's no value added up?
Yeah, you could add more sales, and it goes to the bottom line. But if it's all one guy that's doing it, what are you buying?
It's interesting. When I first got out of college, I went into corporate America. I was a in the transportation industry. In those days, we didn't have many African Americans in the management part of transportation. People would know transportation as Spartan Express, Roadway Express, Yellow Freight, UPS, all those type of companies. So that's what I'm talking about. So I remember when I was in college, I used to read this magazine called Black Enterprise. I couldn't afford it. So I would always go to the library on campus, get them to order it, and that would come in the first of the month. I would sit there and read 3 magazines, Black Enterprise for Business, Ebony, and Jet, because it was the girls, Bill. It was the girls, and go from there. And the magazine said, if you go into corporate training, go into operations first before you go into sales. So when I was hired by a company and they put me in this training program, and I was one of the first Black African-American person in the training program, I remember the stares I would get, but I had to win the folks over X amount of years being on the dock, running the place, just all that. Learned so much about business being out there when you see it from a trucking perspective. Well, eventually I got passed over a couple of times for sales position, wouldn't get it. Only one, I was in Greensboro. I had a manager, one kind of good old boy type who didn't believe in professional Black folk. And he was saying, Odell, it was a sales position open in Greensboro, and he wouldn't even give me an interview for it. And they sent me to Atlanta because it was a sales position in Atlanta. Hey, you would do great in Atlanta, Black folks in Atlanta, blase, blase. And I remember going to Atlanta, and the regional guy came in and interviewed me. And he said, why are you here? And I said, well, sir, because they wouldn't give me an opportunity to even interview for a sales job in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Wow.
And he left the room. And he came back and he said, Odell, because I met him because I was with the company for years and I was in operation. We'd go to annual meetings. You know how that goes.
Yes.
And he just said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And the wife had already told me she's not moving. But so we just went to Atlanta for the interview experience, but also, deep in the back of your mind, you're like, man, she might change her mind. I might be a salesman in Atlanta. But that didn't work because she said something. She said, if a company won't even give you an interview where you are in Greensboro, why move your family? I quit my job and transfer and go to Atlanta. We have to sell our house and do all that for a company who wouldn't even give you an interview. So eventually I got turned down 2 or 3 more times, talking about resilience. And I finally got a sales job in Greensboro. I had 3 or 4 different territories, some of them urban, some were rural. And I remember the salesperson, he's dead now, the sales manager, went and cherry picked all the big accounts, the Macfield Textiles,
Wow.
Comfort Mills,
Wow.
and said, I'm going to give them to a white salesperson because I know these people and they may not be wanting to do business with a Black person.
Wow.
That's what he said. I mean,
Wow.
this is trucking, good old boys trucking.
What year was this about?
This was probably, let's see, I got married in 85. Let's see, probably the late 80s.
Wow. Wow.
And I remember getting in the truck with the drivers, putting on blue jeans, getting in the truck with the drivers, and my drivers, because I had moved up the rank from outbound dispatcher at night, working all night, shipping the freight out, to daytime dispatcher, picking the stuff up, getting the delivery. And I built a relationship with the drivers. And the driver said, Odell, get in the truck with me and we'll take you around and introduce you to all the key people in the territory. Back to like maintenance, the maintenance guy know what goes on in the shop. And I took this territory, Bill, from the worst territories, because the guy was trying to set me up to fail, to the best territory, best producing territory, based exactly on what you said. All the big accounts, he took them from me and gave them to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I had to build, and I had all these little small accounts, all these accounts that did 5,000 a month or something like that. And the big 100,000, all those accounts was taken out of my territory. They were still in my territory, but I knew the people because I used to run dispatch and I'd pick them up, but I couldn't call on them because a person said they don't want to do business with a Black person. And that's not being a victim. It's being an overcomer because I had to find a way to do that. And in the long run, since I had all these $5,000 customers instead of one $500,000 customer, when they lost those $500,000 customers, those other salesmen suffered. And here Odell is. It took me about a year and a half sitting on top. When someone gets something that they didn't work for, they didn't have to build a relationship. It's almost inherited. I'm going to give this to you. You don't have the relationship with the people when something go wrong because you didn't have to work for it. It was given to you.
Yeah.
And I'm out there scrapping every day, going in all these places. And out of all this time, it was just one time. I remember taking some white clients out to lunch on the other side of Solid City, a little area down there. I forgot what it was. And walking in the joint, and the place got quiet when I walked in. And I said to myself, what are you going to do, Odell, if these people refuse to serve you in here?
Wow.
All those years.
Wow.
And that's the only time I ever thought, suit and tie, good looking, slim and trim black guy walking in, and said, what are you going to do if they refuse to serve you in here? Because that's what it felt like.
Wow. In the 80s. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, that's back when the Solid City, the Asheboro were first getting a lot of Mexican and Hispanic people moving in, working in the chicken houses. And I remember in the factories, and I remember talking to some of the managers saying, hey, because I was so used to this territory, was all white, in some cases, poor white folks working in the factories. And I said, hey, man, I'm coming in here and you're hiring majority Hispanics and Mexicans now. He said, yeah. And he made a comment that during lunch, it smells like Taco Bell in there. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's a racist comment. It's a comment. And he said, but what happens now is that nobody leaves for lunch. They stay here. And on Fridays, in the old days, the white guys, and that's what he said, the white guys who used to work for me, when I paid them on Friday, they got their check at lunchtime and left. And some of them went and got drunk and didn't come back. But the Mexicans don't leave, and Hispanics don't leave. They work all day, and they don't complain. That's what the guy said. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that. Now, 30, 40 years later, it's like, wow. Mm. So nobody was complaining about immigration and all that. In those days, people needed folks to do the job that a lot of people wouldn't do. And then over the years, I would see that the white folks who lived down there would complain that the Mexicans are coming in, taking their jobs. And I'm like, don't that sound familiar?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of jobs open that we need people coming in to do. And I don't care who they are. If they can do the job, we need people. I mean, my one company, we work, and every company I go to needs more people in the maintenance department, good operators. They're all struggling to fill their ranks with good people.
What does good people mean?
They show up every day.
On time.
On time. Ready to work.
Hungry.
Yes.
Happy to have a job.
Yes.
I remember when I was coming out of college degree and everything, I couldn't find a job.
Me neither.
I mean, I couldn't find a job.
It was a big recession when I came out.
Yeah, but I couldn't find a job, and I wanted any job. Yeah. I would take anything. I remember cleaning toilets when we were trying to buy our first house. I had a college degree, Bill, working in trucking, transportation during the day, not sales at the time. It was operation. And then in the evening, no, it must have been sales, because I used to go clean offices afterwards when we wanted to buy our first house. It wasn't sales, because I remember when I bought our first house, had them little K cars, that first company car, cleaning toilets. Because in those days, you had to have real money to buy a house. And I remember how the urine would smell in the urinals when I was cleaning it. And it was a engineering firm, and how the guys would take the erasers and push it on the floor, and the floor was carpet, and how we had to vacuum the erasers out the carpet and how hard it was.
Wow.
And cleaning those bathrooms and lifting up the top of a commode, and someone had diarrhea or something, and the bottom of the commode was there, not to try to be so graphic. But I remember with a college degree doing that, because my purpose was I needed this extra money to have X amount of money in the bank, X amount of time, so that we could close on the house, because in those days you couldn't move money after a certain time, because it was different, Bill. It was different on buying a house, and I wanted to have an opportunity to own a house.
You needed 20% down, which is a big number.
Yes, and didn't have it. And me and my wife, college educated, out here working, and people say you're lazy.
Yeah. I clean toilets. That's what I did when I was going to college. I'd go and be the janitor in the morning, clean the toilets, clean the floors, be done at 10 o'clock, get in there at 6, be done at 10, head down to college, take my classes, work and, take classes till about 2 o'clock, and then walk downtown and go become a docket clerk at a law firm till 5 o'clock, then go get something to eat and go walk back to the school and do my evening classes. And then on the weekends, because the law firm was closed, I would drive a bus.
So cleaning toilets was not beneath you or I.
Oh, no.
But
Shoot.
some people said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that kind of work.
Hey, listen, we had 10 people in our house, one bathroom. You took turns cleaning the toilet.
You know what? As we move toward close, lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, elephants and donkeys fighting each other. Why? This great American country called America, land of opportunity. Sometimes, just sometimes, Bill, we don't realize what opportunities we have when we get to the point of what we will and won't do. And it's like, that's beneath me. It wasn't beneath me to clean real bad, strong urinals that just really just tore your nose up to go in there, because I had a purpose and I had a plan. And I know if I stayed on it, that little bit of money, minimum wage, cleaning that office every day when I was tired after working full time, it got me someplace, Bill. I had a process. I wasn't proud of it, but I didn't say because I have a college degree in business, this is beneath me. No, you do what you have to do as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical to get to where you need to get to. Because sometimes I think this country has gotten to a point where we don't understand, and then we blame NAFTA for taking our jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. It's easy to blame somebody. Would you clean toilets today?
I clean toilets at home now.
I clean toilets too. When we go to Boy Scout and we volunteer to clean the camps,
Yeah.
I clean the toilets.
If my family, if I had to provide for my family and I had no other source of income and I had a job and opportunity, and part of it meant cleaning toilets, give me the brush, sir. Give me the brush, sir. Give me the brush, sir. I would clean the toilet. And that just reminded me of something of my grandfather who raised me, my dead grandfather who raised me, excuse me. He told me once, he said, you know what? And it's interesting how this just came to me. He said, if you have a job cleaning toilets, thank you, Holy Spirit, you clean that toilet so well that whoever comes in that next day and sits on it will say to themselves or think to themselves, boy, we must have some good person now cleaning the toilets.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he taught me to take pride in cleaning toilets if that's what I was doing. And Bill, I'm at an age now at 64. I can't go back to my grandfather who raised me, and I wasn't his child. He stepped in for my father who raised me and taught me lessons that I take to this very day. Papa T, thank you for teaching me how to clean a toilet and take pride in whatever job I had. That's the cloth I'm cut from, Goebel. That's the cloth. No victim, none of that. That's the cloth.
Yeah.
And you're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah. There's a book called 2 Second Lean, and he talks about changing the culture of the company in order to become more efficient and add value to the company. When he was putting lean in, it wasn't sticking. So he went back to Japan and he talked to Toyota, and they said, you didn't change the culture. And he says, what are you talking about? He says, I'm going to send you to a company that was losing $10 million a year. They changed the culture. There's a thing called, I think it's 5 S's or 7 S's, sort, something else. But you're supposed to do these 5 S's and organize things. This company said, we're just going to do 1 S. We're going to do 1 S. And the 1 S was they're going to keep the place clean, tidy, organized, and efficient. So the first thing he does, he goes and meets this company, and they're making $5 million a year now. So they switched from 10 million less to 5. And he meets the CEO, and he said, so you want to see what we do and how we did it and how we changed? He goes, yeah. He says, okay, then you're going to have to follow me and do what I do today.
Wow.
And he said, okay. So he followed him. The first thing they did is went clean the toilets, clean the bathroom. Every employee takes turns cleaning the bathrooms in that company, a Japanese, and in this guy's company today. And he said, we also, to become more efficient, in bathrooms, you have a lot of different cleaners, right? He has one cleaner, Windex.
And that's it.
That's it. He says it works fine on everything. And so they don't spend a lot of money on cleaners. They buy Windex. I don't know how we got on bathrooms, but
No. We got in toilets because some individuals was complaining about certain things, and we're saying if the only job is cleaning the toilet, would you do it? That's what you asked me. And I'm saying, give me the brush, sir, and the Windex. Give me the brush and the Windex, because sometimes people test you on what you will and won't do, because as a man who's responsible for a family, because I believe the man's the head of the household, I need to go out there and set an example on how to make an honest living for my children, for my grandchildren, be an example that my wife could look and say, I'm married to a hardworking man who takes his responsibility as being the head of the household seriously, and he goes out there and do the best he can, not complain about everything. But at the same time, Bill, it's hard. It's hard because it was a time in my life when I was homeless as a child. It was a time in my life when we ate out of dumpsters. It was a time in my life when we lived in public housing. It was a time in my life when I lived down the dirt road of South Carolina. It was a time in my life when I didn't have what I have now. Not that I wasn't blessed then, I was blessed then, but the situation that I was born into put me in a situation that I had to fight my way out of. And I thank God for his grace and mercy and people who sold into my life and encouraged me and did all these things, black and white, Republicans and Democrats, rich and poor. When people see you trying, on average, some people will try to kick the ladder out from under you, but you'll be surprised of the people who will give you an opportunity as you try.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to take the first step.
Yeah.
Speaking of trying, I hear that our President Joe Biden, has COVID, Bill.
Yeah.
Is COVID back on the rise?
I don't know. He was coughing at the last news conference he had, so I don't know if he had it then or if he just had a frog in his throat. But at his age, COVID's probably not an easy thing to deal with. It depends how bad he got it, He had vaccines, and I don't know. We'll find out. They just announced it today, so.
Well, listen, this might be his exit ramp. Hey, listen, I got COVID. The doctor said I can't. Let me get out of this race and go from there. So I believe if Biden gets out of the race, that's going to put the Democrats as a negative position. If Biden stays in the race, the Democrats are in a negative position. I think that the only way the Democrats could win would be something similar to the mayoral race in Greensboro when my candidate, Mayor Nancy Vaughn, was running against Justin Outland. I like Justin, but we just disagreed on that. And my good friend, Chris Meadows, Republican, jumped in, for a prank or whatever and pulled 4,000 votes away from Justin, because Justin was more conservative than Nancy ever was. Justin is just conservative as any Republican, and allowed Nancy to win because he jumped in like a write-in candidate, and I still don't understand that.
I heard the other day someone told me that they think Nancy paid Chris Meadows to run.
I don't know. I doubt that. I don't know. Chris is my friend.
Ask him when you see him.
I'm going to ask him. When he come back from hanging out with the big wigs in Milwaukee, Terry Lake, and Donald Trump, and everybody out there, you think Chris has aspirations of running for a larger seat?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dog catcher.
Oh, Bill, dog catcher. Tell me about the campaign. Tell me about the school board campaign as we move toward close. How's things going? Fundraisers, endorsements. Let me know what you need. Tell the people how can they donate money to you, and how's everything going, my friend? And when's the big day? Because time is ticking.
Yeah, November 5th is the election. It's going well. It's going real well. Raised plenty of money. I've got some billboards up. Just signed a contract to be in Hispanic magazines and websites and things like that. So it's coming well. Got to wait to hear about a couple of endorsements. It's under consideration. I had my interviews. So we'll wait and see. Really things don't kick in till after Memorial Day. People, they're all involved listening to this because of the assassination attempt. But school board isn't top of mind. We're running ads every week and every month in Northwest Observer, which is good. And got some events coming in Summerfield and Oak Ridge and Stokesdale that we're attending. So it's all coming together. Getting ready to purchase another 1,500 yard signs.
Wow.
So we're going to have a total of 2,000.
Isn't it nice to have money?
It is. It is. And, the people say, well, you're buying the election. I'm going, you can go out and raise money. I didn't stop you from doing it.
Well, it's interesting when people, back to my point, people want to write their own narrative or help dictate someone else's narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. People will find a reason why they want to villainize you and make you feel that, you're a bad person, which, you can't take that to heart. You just got to know that. Have thick skin. And I've been through a lot worse. I mean, that's just name calling. That's just being bullied. Now that I recognize that they're bullying me, it allows me to call them out.
So Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated, independents, those in the bushes, those in the woods, those who are on the battlefield, everybody is affected in this battle one way or the other. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Donkeys and elephants fighting. Why? This is America, Bill. This is democracy is at stake. We have the Democrat representative, President Joe Biden, who probably going to drop out. We have the Republican representative, former President Donald Trump, who is just fight, almost lost his life, but still in there. And it's a time. And the key is, what are we fighting for? Make America great again. When did America stop being great? As people of color, people are starting to come together to push a strong push for President Biden or the Democrat. It's on and popping, Bill. And right now, it's the calm before the storm. Everyone has decided that we're going to be civil toward each other. We're going to act nice. We're going to do all these things. But when someone blows the whistle and says, time is over, let's go for the jugular, people are going to come out. Because I even think that the Democrats pulled all the negative ads from President Trump. And President Trump, again, I thank God that he wasn't assassinated. I'm not a Trump fan, but I didn't want that to happen, Bill, because I think that we're better than that. Mm-hmm. Then you hear rumors that other countries have hits on, just a lot going on, man. A lot is going on.
Well, that stuff might have been going on all along. We're just hearing about it.
Back to my John F. Kennedy statement. If we knew about Marilyn Monroe in those days, hey, because people have been behaving like people for years. And some people says, listen, I'm not electing a priest. I'm not electing a preacher. I don't like everything. And I may even hold my nose and vote for President Trump because I like certain things when he do with the economy. Or people say, I'm not voting. I don't like President Biden, but I may hold my nose. And I still believe that the national ban on abortion is going to drive so many people to get behind that curtain, Bill, and make decisions that's best for them. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts, last word, sir.
Oh, yeah. Once they get behind the curtain, that's when they're going to say, well, who do I really want? And that's when it's going to happen. I think there's a percentage that's going to go Republican. There's a percentage that go Democrat. And there's going to be a percentage that'll make their decision at the voting booth. And so it's exciting to watch and wait. November 5th is going to be incredible because we got the president, the governor, lieutenant governor, and of course the school board.
Of course, the school board. Should I feel some kind of way? Should I be in my feelings? Should I feel hurt that you haven't asked a good-looking black guy, your partner in crime, to endorse you yet, and not the pitcher, or we have to get the big time people endorsement first before you come to the good-looking black guy to, who's going to endorse you, who believe you. So you say, Odell, don't get in your feelings yet. I'm working this. Who's your campaign manager?
Well, I'm waiting for the call from Biden and Trump. And as soon as they call me, I'll get in touch with you.
Okay.
But I've got a finance manager. She's doing a great job. She keeps all the books for me. So that's really good. From a campaign manager, I've got a fellow who's going to take care of early voting because there's 3 locations.
Wow.
And then there's 17 polling locations on election day.
Okay.
So we're going to need a lot of people because nobody wants to stand there from 7:30 to 7:30.
I know who will be standing there.
Oh, yeah, I will be. Yeah, that's for sure. So we've got to figure out, how to set that all up so that we can get it. And he's going to organize. So I've been collecting people's names and contacts that want to volunteer for that, that also want yard signs. And I'm going to have to go door to door as well with yard signs and knock on doors and say, hey, would you vote for me? Can I put a yard sign in your yard?
Let me tell you a quick story about you talking about Trump. People have asked me, Hey, Odell, President Trump, not this time, the last time he was running, he's coming to Greensboro. He's going to do this thing on the tarmac. We want you to come. Will you come? And I'm like, nah, man, I ain't gonna be that black person in the background with a sign, blacks for Trump, because, you get there, they're going to stick a sign in your hand. And they're very good at placing black people in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They're good at that. Blacks for Trump.
Yep.
Blacks for Trump. And the polls are saying you can't always believe the polls, but to your point, the polls are saying it's neck and neck appearance that the black males are voting for President Trump. It's come to reality now, and instead of 18% or whatever they were doing, they said the numbers just keep going down, that black folks are going home, voting for Democrats and everything else. So that warms my heart, Bill, that black is back, baby. Black is back.
Yeah, that is good. And is Mount Zion doing a voter registration and all that stuff?
We're going to be doing voter registration. We can't tell people who to vote for, but we definitely can encourage people to vote. And we do voter registration. We're going to have some debates in there. We invite, every year, big years, we invite local candidates, statewide candidates and others to come in and have a debate.
Yeah.
And people usually come.
Yeah. As far as endorsement with photos, I've thought about that, and I started thinking about it, and I'm not sure it gives you the traction you need in a school board race.
What do you think?
I think it, at least in my district, I think going door to door, standing outside of grocery stores, talking to people, making yourself present has more impact than a picture of me standing next to a sheriff. Because some people will like that sheriff and some people won't.
And you're just saying, hey, I'm just trying to deal with the roofs. I'm
just going to let them meet Bill, and if they like what I have to say, vote for me. If they don't, I understand. And if I get elected, it's great. It's great. And
will you attack your opponent when you get elected?
No.
Will you call about retribution?
No.
Will you do the things that some people are talking about doing?
No. I'm actually, if I win, I will call my opponents, and I don't care if they can concede or congratulate. I don't care about that. But I will call them and say, look, you got a certain percentage of votes. You have a certain constituency. I am very happy to listen to what you have to say.
You think they'll talk to you?
No, one won't for sure. He won't even shake my hand. So I don't think he will, but I'm going to offer that olive branch. I offered to debate him, and his wife said, well, why would he want to debate? And there's your story right there.
Well, I saw one debate, Bill. I saw former President Donald Trump beat President Biden like he stole something in the debate. And after that debate, Biden is still walking around punch drunk. And there's a lot happened since that debate. And there's a lot going to happen between now and November when the president election. So all we can say is buckle up, buttercup. This is America. This is democracy. And we're going to go from there. But there's a lot at stake. You talked about Ukraine. You talked about, no one's talking about Israel and Gaza and all that kind of stuff anymore. What's going on there?
Yeah. Israel's trying to get rid of Hamas. They're still working at it.
They're working it.
The Ukrainians want those long-range weapons so they can attack the supply lines of Russia, and America won't give it to them.
Because?
I don't know. I guess they're afraid that Ukraine will attack the Kremlin or some other area. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. I'm sure there's a backstory to it, but it reminds me of the Vietnam War. The soldiers came back and said they wouldn't allow us to fight to win the war. And it sounds like we're doing the same thing with Ukraine, that we're happy that it's a stalemate, and that's good.
All right, my friend. Well, your race is not a stalemate. Vote for Bill. A vote for Bill is a vote for the children.
Amen.
So I appreciate it. Have a good night. And again, thank you all for supporting us. Thank you for the contributions to Bill. And just thank you for praying for our country, our great country, United States of America. God bless America. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Goodbye.
Find Bill and Odell online at thecommonground.show. This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.
Attention men, here's an important new podcast you need to be listening to.
So this whole issue about prostate and prostate health and all the challenges that we're having with it, but no one's talking. So that's the reason why I started this podcast, so we can talk, so we can get understanding. I understand I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical individual. I'm just an ordinary, normal guy who had some issues to say, hey, let's talk about this thing.
P is for Prostate with Odell Cleveland. Download anytime where you get your podcasts. And join for the full podcast at www.patreon.com/Odell Cleveland.
Whether you're a big, medium, or small business, managing and growing the bottom line is important. Focus CFO brings the experience and financial acumen of a Fortune 100 Chief Financial Officer to your company at a fraction of the cost. P&L help, internal reporting processes, or any business transitions or events. Focus CFO will help you and your team have a CFO in your company's back pocket. Focus CFO. Learn more at focuscfo.com.